Welcome aboard to Collage Jam for Monday, October 10th, 2022. Happy Thanksgiving Monday, everybody. And yeah, this is the first time I've ever done a Collage Jam on a holiday. A little bit inadvertent because I scheduled it, and then later, like after I'd publicized it and everything, I thought, oh, that's Thanksgiving Monday. And then I thought, well, just going ahead. So hopefully you can join us for a little bit of collage fun on your Thanksgiving Monday. And if not, you can always catch it on the replay. And if you're joining us from the States, then it is Thanksgiving Monday up here in Canada, but no big deal anywhere else. So yeah. Hey, Amy, welcome aboard. And hello, Abigail. That's lovely to have you along. You're an infrequent person to have here, and it's a delight to have you along. Awesome. Yay. I know it's going to be a good one now. So yeah, welcome aboard. Yeah, perfect. Hopefully you enjoy it. That's so great. Kim won't be joining us this week because this iteration, she's teaching her first class back after her cancer recovery, and the cancer recovery is ongoing. She's still easily exhausted, so she has a class tomorrow that she still needs to prep and she needs to preserve her strength and energy for. So I'll be flying solo, but not solo because I've got my my collage crew joining me on chat, which is awesome. Yay. Hey, Margaret, I thought you might join us. That's awesome. Yeah, because it is a holiday, right? So you're not actually teaching. So that's awesome. Yeah, welcome. Hello, Anne. Yeah, it's yeah, cool. I'm so glad. Like I thought, oh, no one's gonna show up now that I've like scheduled it on a holiday. So I'm delighted that we actually have some people. That's awesome. Hey, Jane, welcome aboard. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. And Gerda, yay, yeah. Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, no, her show was awesome. In fact, she had two shows and they were both really, really great. And in fact, she has a follow-up show, I think, next autumn as a result of the show at Redhead. The curator from Station Gallery, Olex Wasenko, came and saw it, and he said, how'd you like to bring this to Station Gallery next year? And she said, yes, please. So so yeah, that's a really great thing to look forward to for her. Hey, Annie. Awesome. Yes. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Oh, and I'll definitely pass along your wishes to Kim as well, for sure. Hello, Cherie. Awesome. Yeah. Kim is back in the saddle. Yeah, she has a lot to teach all of us, increasingly. She's teaching me grace under pressure these last few months, that's for sure. Yeah. So that's so great that there are so many of you here. That's awesome. I'm so glad that the Holiday Monday thing is working out. So so our theme today, optional as always, for those of you who are new to Collage Jam. I don't think anyone is, not anyone who signed in, but sometimes people are watching and not participating in the chat. If you're new to Collage Jam, you can join our mailing list if you want, our email list, and get the prompts. But the prompts are just that, they're prompts. They are starting places and they're completely optional. Sometimes it can be really great to have a starting point, and then you sort of start with that and then you head off in your own direction, or you come across the prompt and think, you know, this one that doesn't do it for me. I think I'm going to do my own thing. It's really just about having collage company and collaging with each other, chatting, talking about creativity, working, playing together. So the prompt is just that, optional. So 5-piece collages is today's prompt. This is something I use in my classes every so often as a little challenge. And I know some of you guys have been in some of my classes where I've used that. And it can go in a number of different ways. lots of people will make collages with lots more pieces than 5 pieces, right? So you can treat it as a way to um, keep it simple and fresh, like, oh, I'm only going to have 5 pieces, and you can just like, okay, that's it, that's 5, that's all it is, I'm on with the next one. Or you can also I in one of my, I'm just trying to remember which class it was. I can't remember. Cherie was in it. I remember that because she did a killer. I gave them a picture of my students, a picture of some construction workers, and I said, pick one of them and do them in 5 pieces of collage. And so it can become quite a little jigsaw puzzle. Like how can you say as much as possible using only just 5 pieces? So Cherie had a great example of like this one piece that did parts of the leg, parts of the torso, up in the arms, and then just other pieces showed through holes and so on. But it was only 5 pieces of paper, so it was you can approach it completely different ways. Hey, Ricky, yay! How are you? Great to have you along, and happy Canadian Thanksgiving to you. I know it's a little early for you, but yeah, great to have you along. And you may have missed, but Kim can't join us today. She's her energy is still very it taps out quickly, so she will do a little bit of work and then she needs a long rest afterwards. So she's teaching tomorrow for the first time this fall, so she's got a little bit of prep to do and a lot of rest to do. So yeah, so oh, you're welcome, Cherie. Yeah, no, I'm gonna keep it on the fast and loose. But if anyone feels like being super clever about how to do how you use 5 pieces of paper, that's awesome. Yeah, it's great to have you along, Ricky. So I'm going to switch the camera to the overhead, so don't be alarmed as it goes black for a few seconds. I'm just going to, rather than making you seasick as it makes its way from the top of my laptop to the stand, overhead stand. There we go. And just get it more or less on the work area there. There we go. All right, so sometimes I prepare ahead of time, sometimes I don't. And today is definitely one of those times when I won't say I didn't prepare anything. I've laid out some collage materials off camera, but really that's about it. I've got a stack of magazines, I've got some colored paper, I've got some sort of black and white kinds of things. And I'm just going to be just going to take it very loosely and have fun with it. And who knows, I might even finish one or two. And I know that's a bold statement, but maybe if there are only 5 pieces of paper allowed, maybe I might even get 1 or 2 collages done during the session. Unlike the last time, Windows, I didn't get, I cut out a lot of stuff, but I didn't finish anything. And it's still on my list, on my pile of 2 finished collages. I have been finishing a few collages lately, which is nice. I do start a lot more than I finish. I'm embarrassed to say. I have a huge pile of unfinished collages. But I have just recently actually managed to get back at some of them and finish some of them, which is, it's such a good feeling when you have this sort of, you know, it's got potential and it's not there yet, and you've had to put it down and you haven't got back to it, which happens, as I said, it happens to me a lot. So getting back to some of them and getting them done has been great. Those of you who joined me for my what was it called? Collaging the Fashionable Figure in September, we did a fairly involved process of a lot of like cutting through several layers of paper to come up with multiple silhouettes and multiple pieces of clothing to play with. And again, during class, I got partway through the cutting, But I went back to those and I finished several of them. So I'll post those relatively soon. And so that I was really happy about. I actually went back, got them done, and came up with a few that I like, a few that were like, yeah, that's all right. But that's, I figure if you've got, it's all about batting average, I figure. If you start 10 collages and get 1 or 2 or 3 that you really like the result on, that's pretty good, actually. I mean, most creative endeavors, drawing, painting, songwriting, poem writing, story writing, whatever, anything you do that's creative, you do it all, and then you sort of look back later and evaluate. It's like, yeah, that one came out, that one not so much, that one's okay but not great. And that's just the nature of it. You need to produce and then not worry about, of course you worry about it, you think about it, it's back in the back of your mind, but you don't let it stop you. You just like churn it out and then later figure out what it means or whether it was good. Right? So much worrying about it's a mug's game trying to worry about whether it's good while you're making it. So what I'm tearing with here, I think these were we used to be designers, and these were paper promotions from a long time ago. Yeah, so it's a particular kind of paper stock and showing how it takes different kinds of paint, including a glitter thermography printed. This part of this was printed with. You might see that little glitter in some of those lines, but often really nice colors. So I thought that's in my pile. So I'm just going to see what maybe I'll use some of that. I don't even know how yet. So I'll check in with comments in just a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, let us know how you're approaching it in the comments. Are you going to be like careful? Are you going to be fast and loose? You're going to do a little bit of each? What kind of materials are you using? I've got my paper samples. I've got some scrapbook paper. Like this is from my scrapbook paper, just a sort of a nubbly fabric texture kind of feeling. Some black and white stuff, and my ubiquitous fashion magazines, which haven't made it into camera view yet, but they're just off camera, so they'll be in there shortly. I know. Abigail says she's working on a digital collage. Awesome. Learning Procreate. Picked 5 Unsplash images. Perfect. Yeah, that's it. So working with a limited palette of reference images and seeing how they can fit together. That's perfect. Nothing to say it can't be digital. As always, space is at too much of a premium on my desk. Because I put this big scrap on, get it out of the road a bit, and then I'll have some elbow room. And I am just going to launch in. I don't have a composition, I don't have a theme, but I have a glue stick. And really, that's all I'm going to worry about. Something I have had to learn the hard way is you don't need an idea to start, and sometimes just starting and coming up with stuff will lead to ideas. And sometimes what I first make is just like, what was I even thinking? Well, I wasn't thinking, right? And that's fine. But if it got the engine running and it headed me, and I started noticing things about what I was working on, then the next one can grow from that. But if you don't, like, I think we get a great just trying to organize what I have thoughts. I just trying to put them in words. I think when we're getting warmed up, seeing things is useful. So like looking through things, and that's part of what you do with collage, right? Is you start looking through what you've got as options. So that starts ticking the brain over. And I think also using our hands. And so this thing that I'm starting with absolutely zero idea what I'm doing will probably not turn into anything, or it might become a base for something. But if it gets me going and I start thinking as a result of it, and I might come up with some ideas based on some beginnings based on what I see that would never have occurred to me if I hadn't just started, right? So I think that's an important lesson. There's that Picasso quote about inspiration will find you if it finds you working, is really along that line. If you're doing stuff, it means that your hands are working, your mind, your eyes are working. And so it's inevitable that you'll start having ideas that start to cook, like that are inspiring rather than just like, right? But you need to get going. So that's what I'm doing right now, is trying to get going. I wanted this to be, no, it's not going to be what I thought it was going to be. That's all right. Maybe it'll be something else. There it is. Sometimes it's a piece you think you weren't going to use that becomes what you're going to use. Okay. So I'm at 3 pieces there. That's kind of fun. So that means I only have a couple left. Creasing this piece in what hopefully will be an interesting way. I'm not sure it is, but I'm not worried about that. I think it looks better out of something darker, so maybe I will find some black. Maybe better. Well, maybe this is still too. It's not dark enough. Sometimes it's nice to find something that's not quite black. I love black. Black is it electrifies color. It's an absolute value in terms of like as dark as it can get. But sometimes it's good to come up with something that is not quite black, but serves as black, is almost as dark. So for instance, this is in my scrapbook, and it's a leather. You probably can't see that. Yeah, you definitely can't see that on camera. But it is not as dark as black. And so it's like a dark gray, but it might do the job and be just a little bit more interesting as a result. So I think I'll lean for that. I forget where I came across it. It was an artist talking about painting, and it's something I say in my painting and in my collage now. Can't even remember if it was a he or she, but they were saying, look for things or mix colors that act as black but aren't black. They have a little bit of color or a little bit of value shift because it makes the painting more interesting. And I think that way about collage too. It's like white is great, but with an off-white that has a little bit of a color tinge to it or a little bit of a value tinge or both, would that make it more interesting? Oftentimes, yes. So that's sort of what I was thinking about this Yeah, black, but maybe not quite black is even better. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll have one more option. Cool. And then I can move on. All right, check in with the chat. So Jane says she created a portrait / silhouette of Mountain Mama out of magazine sheets of foliage, stone, and food. After all, it's 25th anniversary of John Denver's death. Wow. Wow. And Abigail says sometimes thinking can get in the way of intuition or intuitive process. Absolutely. Absolutely. And intuition is just basically it's you've learned all this stuff through your life that you don't have to think consciously about anymore. It's already built in there, right? So um thinking is great and not thinking is great. And Anne says she loves today's prompt and thinking about it with interest, but I'm a week behind, so I'm going to do the Windows prompt. Sure, absolutely, why not? um, and Margaret says she's going to start with monochromatic and see where that goes. Yeah, that's a perfect way. That lets you have sort of a color filter to put on it. Like, oh, I'm going to work with greens first. So anything that's green can fit in. And so that's you got the limit of the 5 pieces, and you've got the color, and that will color limitation, and that will help it hold together nicely too, of course. Awesome. All right. I was trying to figure out how to glue this. Well, if I do that, all that side, that'll be fine. Okay. I just have to be careful when I'm talking and working. Sometimes that often leads to me getting confused. That happens pretty easily. All right. We've got this fold. I'll do that now that it's in place. I sometimes like folding things to wait for what it does to images, and it allows me to have a little bit of what's on the back show, and it gives additional interesting shapes. So, and it's also great to get more mileage out of one piece of paper in this kind of a prompt, right? So. Kind of like the C shape. I'm just not sure whether it's going to be the thing for this particular collage or not. I think on the basis of not fussing too much, I think I will just use it. I'm just figuring out, I'm going to use it, just figure out what is the most interesting position and orientation. Definitely want it relating to the eye. I mean, eyes are like that, right? They're pretty compelling. I could even obscure the eye, which might be both alarming and liberating. That's kind of fun, the way it sort of plays with the lower lid. I like it off center though. Do what that same thing being off center. a slightly smaller, fatter one. See, now I know I'm getting too cute. I'm having ideas, but we'll see. We'll see whether it actually leads anywhere. I'll always go back to my C shape if I decide to. Okay, it looks like a 2. I'm not so keen on the 2. Ended up with this sort of image of the phone near her eye, and so I was just thinking about, is there some interesting way to connect the two? Which there might be. There might be. We'll see. I'm amusing myself, but I'm not really arriving at any sort of conclusion. So I think I'm going to go with the original. Plan, which is something along this line. And that is a 5-piece collage, so I'm out of pieces, so I'm on to the next one. So I think for the next one, I'm gonna play with some of the same elements, same pieces of paper, because they're already cut, they're on my desk, so why not use them? I sometimes find that using the leftovers is actually good for my creativity somehow. So I'll use some of the same stuff and just see how it goes. It's kind of like the thinking that I did on the first one was still using some of using those same materials. So in some ways, the materials and the colors are already loaded into my head from the previous. So why not stick with that, seeing as I've still got scraps and pieces of them. And it's kind of like I've warmed up in that bailiwick. So I'll probably do maybe even a couple more with those, and then move on to a different set of. Once I've sort of played with that a bit more, move on to the next. I like that white edge going across there. So, and for this one, for whatever reason, mostly because it was the size of the width of one of the scraps, but I just thought, I'm going to make this one tall and skinny. For no other reason other than that might be set it apart, and it sort of was dictated or suggested, let's put it that way. Yeah, suggested is a better way of putting it. Suggested by the scraps I had left over. And so I cut this zigzag edge because I was thinking about making each piece a little more interesting, and I already liked that white edge, and I thought, okay, that's a tear and it's a value shift, and so a zigzag is a cut, do something else that's interesting at the bottom, and so this piece brings a few different things with it because of that. So I like this for a couple of reasons. I like the direction of the hand coming in. I like that little shot of pink, which I definitely liked about this piece as well. And I thought, I wonder if it makes sense to position it somewhere where this circle could function as an eye, but not an eye. And that might be forcing it a bit. And it might not. So I'm going to see about that. Feeling a little forced to me, so I may go to a different strategy. We'll just see. Also, something nice about the way there's a hand in this. I mean, you can be forgiven for not realizing those are fingers, but they still have a feeling, even if you don't notice it per se. The fingers here and the fingers there. So that might be of interest. Sort of about seeing whether there are opportunities or connections and whether they work for you. And if they don't, they don't. And if they do, they do. I was thinking sort of bring another eye and another bit of a face. And when I do that, I'm not keen on it. So because there's too much face, I don't know. Maybe too literal, so maybe it should be an upside down eye. Do you ever feel like you're thinking too much? I do and I don't. I'm kind of enjoying the thinking part, but I'm aware that it might that it might get out of hand at any moment. So, well, with the bottom face upside down, maybe the top eye should be right side up. Where'd that white eyebrow that I decided I didn't like go? It needs to factor in here. after all. All right, I have to commit to something, so I'm just gonna, oh, that side looks interesting. Always good to double check the other sides. That's fun too. There's something about her palette that goes well with this. And that sort of weird arbitrary shape she's cut in because it related to this, not her. Yeah, I'm thinking that's more interesting. So that's what it's going to be. One of the joys of working with magazines is that there's always something on the other side, and sometimes it's of no use, and sometimes it's of like, wow, I'm really glad I found that there. So in this case, I think I'm glad I found it. So what am I at? 3 pieces. Okay, still have all kinds of options. Still have 40% of my options left. How fun is that? So now the game has changed, though, hasn't it? Because of that. So the game has changed. Serendipity or chance or crazy things you can find and do is it's the thing that keeps me hooked on collage, for sure. I was first thinking, oh, I'll line this up with one of the fingers on a bit of an angle, but then I thought, I think maybe it's good to mess. I'm trying to work with messing with faces to use their sort of power to arrest us and without relying on them too heavily. So I'm thinking, okay, well, what can I do to sort of defeat some of that face while still benefiting from it, right? Because it's definitely useful to have that face in there. Thinking about like, okay, I'm going to look for something else that kind of stands in for eye-like, but isn't. And now I'm at 4. Think about something else. It's kind of weird and arbitrary, but it's just a nice sort of negative shape there. Could be like a voice bubble. Could be. I wonder if voice bubble that actually also obscures the face a little bit. That's kind of interesting. Again, might be too contrived, but you got to try it, right? When that occurs to you, you got to try it. Let's make it a little more like a voice bubble. And then, of course, as soon as you put a voice bubble on, it's like, well, what is she saying? And that is a good question. I'm not sure yet. And is she going to say it this way and cover this eye, or the other way and cover the other eye? And which way looks better in the composition? I kind of like it breaking out this side as a counterpoint to that. And the fifth piece might be worth spending on what's in the voice bubble. So I'm going to put this image in there because that's more fun than a word. And it also will tie into the, because it's from this piece, it will tie into that. So, but it might, again, might be too contrived, might be red as an eye. What if the image is right side up, even though she's upside down? That might be fun. All right, I'm going to go with that, even though, well, as soon as I said that, I thought, oh, I wonder if the voice bubble should be like a zingier color. It is kind of a very harmonious, muted colored palette. So maybe it does need the zing, or maybe I'm crazy to put the zing in, but let's find out. Since browns are basically modified oranges, maybe the orange is kind of a worth trying. The orange might be kind of like a nice bit of both. It will harmonize, but it will also pop. Because nothing else is that strong a color, but it's in the same color. It's analogous, but it's much more intense. And I am going to try words because, you know, so I'm going to try, I might try some words from that, which is just the title page of the Elements of Style. And then this I saved because I thought that it was worth saving. So from the early days of the pandemic, we took our temperatures every day. I did a little better than Kim. Kim struggled to do it every day. When we're, you know, we had to know, do we need to self-isolate? And that was one of the only indicators. So I thought, this is like an archive of a particular personal experience. So I just saved it and threw it in my collage bin. And so I was just wondering about maybe just like having a little scrap of those temperatures and times. That's what it is. It's just like, it's a list of days down here and the list of temperatures and the time I took them. It's like, why would anyone save that once you're, well, because it might be interesting. Artists, right? So, and that's kind of like, it is words, it's handwritten, but it's kind of doesn't make sense in the context, but that makes more sense visually or artistically, I think, to have it not be an easy read where she's saying something expected, right? So away she goes. Got her orange voice bubble. And she's going to be talking about meaningless figures. You know, when you meet a girl in a bar and she's just always talking about numbers, it's tedious so fast. There we go, 5 pieces. On with the next one. But first, I'll check and see what you guys are talking about. So, Ricky says, as you know, I'm recovering academic. I cannot not think. Yeah, so you have to think, you know, it's you got to start where you are, right? And you probably said that a while ago, Ricky. I'm just catching up with the comments now. So Abigail says the game is afoot. So that was also probably in reference to something that that I mentioned earlier, and I've missed the thread. But thank you, Abigail. Hey, Ruth, welcome aboard. So Ruth has joined us. She says, happy Thanksgiving. I'm a little late logging on. Not to worry. We're not to worry. We're just playing along. You're in good time. Looks like I missed some news on Kim. She has a show upcoming. She actually, yes, so she had a couple of shows this spring, as you probably knew. Just trying to get a decent lighting for you and for me. That might be better. But she had, from her show at Redhead, which was in May, yes, it was in Contact Week, Contact Month, the curator at Station Gallery in Whitby said, how would you like to bring this show or some version of it to Station Gallery next year? And she said she would love to. So yes, so that's coming up next fall. So yeah, so it's really great when you can, first of all, get a show in a public gallery. That's really great. And it's really great when a curator comes and affirms, like, looks at what you've done and says, you know, this is great work and I'd like to have it in my gallery. It's just it's beautiful. It's a wonderful thing. So yeah, that's awesome. All right, so I will choose some sort of a different starting point this time. Maybe I'll start with imagery this time and go from there. Certain images I've had kicking around for quite a while. I grabbed a pile from that I had put aside a while ago. I think these might even date from a collage portrait class I was teaching. But I thought it might be worth taking a look at them as possible starting points. This image, my printer was acting up, and at first it's like, damn, and then wait a minute, it's like, oh, that makes it so much more interesting immediately because it's got these like colored and value stripes through it. So it's already a startling image because of the unusual angle, the low angle, and the almost profile. But then, yeah, there's something about this, having those horizontal bands, and they've got some beautiful pinks and oranges coming up. And then when it shifts into the hair, it becomes mostly white with a little bit of, you know, you can't control that, but it's pretty great. So sometimes it's better when your technology acts up. There's a whole field of art called glitch art where people intentionally mess with coding or files to make programs or file formats do weird things, weird and unexpected things, which it's kind of which I love. It's just like, who thought of that? But whoever thought of it it's a great idea. So yeah, so I might start with her. I might start with this one. This is that thing about that I'm experiencing right now, which is about sort of being precious. Like I actually find this one with the stripes in it kind of precious. So I don't want to be precious. So it's either I just go with it anyway, or I put it aside and let the preciousness win for this one. So I'm not sure what's going to happen yet. Whether I'll go with holding it for a future date, I kind of try to be of the mind most of the time that the universe is abundant, and when it sends me cool things, I should use them and to make way for the next cool thing that the universe is going to send me. So I think that's the basis on which I'm going to proceed. As okay, I just had a thought, which is may or may not work, but like this might look good on a color that picks up one of either that orange or that pink. So I've got some fluorescent-y type papers here. And I was just thinking, wouldn't it be cool? Let's see. I mean, she looks great on that pink. But the stripes become less important than they are without it. And that's interesting, isn't it, right? You think this would make them, it definitely ties in, it ties it together, but the stripes without that zingy background are actually, I think, better. So that tells me that, okay, I'll try something less busy, less zingy color-wise. This is actually still pretty busy, this pattern, but it might be better. I might want to try my dark gray, or maybe it's some of each. Oh, I just have a thought that I like, or I think I like. I'll find out whether I like it or not. How tall is that? How tall is the sheet? Okay. I was thinking that it'd have these two in the background. Something like that. But I think I actually like without that. I like the whites. And so, yeah, I think I'm going to do something more like that. I don't want it to go quite the full height of the piece. This was a piece that I tore, something I was going to use for an eyebrow out of. And I just liked the fact that that was this idiosyncratic tear. And it's like when finding your scraps that you cut something out of, or in this case, torn, it was specific but for a different purpose. And that, I think, is sometimes interesting in collage is, you know, it's an artifact from another process that doesn't relate to this piece, but it brings interest. And so obviously that's a pretty simple little tear, just an arced tear. But I've done this same thing with, like, played with scraps where I've cut something elaborate out and it's brought this sort of interesting, you know, it was like a wheel cut out or a hand or something, and then the next collage it's finding its way into has nothing to do with those, but it makes it more interesting. So I don't know, maybe it's the fact that there are arcs, you know, lips, eyes, eyebrows, nose, and so all have these beautiful arcs, and that echoes it. And in fact, I was playing with the voice bubble piece and thought, I kind of like the fact that it looks like it had a circle cut out of it. So I thought, well, I want something more circular, so I'll use that, which I may or may not use, but that's something fun too. It has a bit of that same, yeah, I think that right there might be the basis for make it interesting enough to start. That's 3 pieces, and then I'll have a bit of latitude for a couple more additions. And I'll check in on your comments, and after I've got this one glued down. How's it going with you guys? How are you finding having the 5-piece limit? Are you finding it frustrating? Or are you finding it liberating, interesting? Are you being like careful in cutting very elaborate pieces, or are you um, just being sort of quick and loose, fast and loose? What's working for you? Kind of cliche to put it around the eye, but it is also pretty fun, you got to admit. There's something nice about this being in behind and then that being in front. It may not be the ultimate. That's kind of fun the way it obscures some of the face. I definitely like it playing with the eye, at least so far. So I'm gonna leave it there, and sometimes I look at this and I think maybe that's enough. Maybe this one doesn't even need to be 5 pieces. Like 5 is a pretty stringent or pretty limited number of pieces, and maybe 3 is all I need. But I will try a few other options, and if the other additions don't work, I'm game to keep it at 3, even though 5 was the prompt. Right, I said I'd check the comments, so let's do that. And Ruth says, yes, she was at both of the shows. Yes, of course you were. So, and Nellie has joined us. Hey, Nellie, welcome aboard. She says, I'm attending Thanksgiving lunch with family and grandkids. Bad connection, but am with us. That's awesome. Thank you, Nellie. I really appreciate it. I know that sounds like a busy family day for sure. So, Ruth says she saw the show at Redhead, amazing, as well as her photography show. Yeah, they were both great shows. Congrats, she says to her. That was an amazing show. It was. Abigail's saying that she's enjoying the challenge to have 5 pieces, finding it lovely and funny. Yeah, funny is great. When you can tickle your funny bone, that's like sense of humor and sense of novelty and creativity. They're all very much in the same sort of part of our brain, I think. So they all play off each other nicely. Annie says 6 would be nice, LOL. Well, and you know what, Annie, if you've got a piece that really needs a 6, then you just say it needs 6 and you put it on for sure. Margaret says, I'm being loosey-goosey with ripped painted papers. Awesome. And I really like the 5-piece limit. I can't think what else I can add. I've made 2, but the second is a cheat as I ended up with 7. And that, yeah, it's it. As I just said, Danny, if it needs 1 or 2 more pieces, the prompt got you as far as it needed to, right? It got you thinking more economically, and then you just decided, you know what, this is great, but it needs this extra piece or these extra couple pieces. Perfect, that's fine. Jane says, would you believe a 2-piece? Absolutely, I would. I've done quite a few of them where I thought I was going to do more and just the 2 pieces, and that was it for sure. She says, working on more, but gee, only the 2 works well. Absolutely. Margaret corrected second, as I ended up with 7 second, right? Okay. All right, let's see. Kind of like a monocle backwards or G or something. That's kind of fun. Kind of liking that. That's kind of messing with some of the, yeah, I like that. So I think I'm going to try. I still like the sort of circles interacting with each other. I'm going to widen this one a bit lower so that it does, yeah, I like that. Okay, sometimes you just figure it out. In fact, I think, you know what I think helped me with that was stopping for a minute there to look at your chats, because it got me away for a minute or two, came back, and had a little more clarity. Yay for clarity. All right, I was going to, that's not going to work. I'm just going to do it by memory. So I'll just look at it. It's sort of halfway into her lip, and it's sticking out just a little bit. It's like a 1/4 inch chunk there. Okay. I have to say I like working with these scrapbook papers. I do a fair bit with magazines, as you guys know, and magazine papers are so thin, they curl up and they can be quite difficult to glue anything complicated, but the scrapbook paper is more substantial. Nice to have something that doesn't get distressed too easily. That said, now I'm having trouble with it, so don't get cocky. That's the lesson from that, I guess. I kind of like the way this interferes with the eye but doesn't obliterate it, and it kind of plays with the eyebrow without following it perfectly. So. Something I've been thinking about a lot, and I've mentioned it before, I think, on the Collage Jams, is since I did the work on the poetry book where the publisher said, yeah, just don't show anyone's faces, you know, and I said, not even if they're like royalty free, and they said, just don't show people's faces, no one recognizable, because I guess that's their copyright concern. I've also been thinking about the fact that, you know, faces are so powerful that it's can be an interesting challenge to sort of use them but not rely on them too heavily, right? So that's why I'm interested in interfering with their the clarity of them, right? So it's not like a fashion image per se, or any kind of a really clear, but it's still using some of the fact that it is a face. So that's sort of what was coming up with that too, or that's where that came from. That's where that came from. Grabbing some of it, but also making it about more than that, or something else than that. So what am I at? I've got 4 there, right? So I have one more option if I want it. I might want it. That's kind of fun. Kind of like this one cups the sort of cheekbone that's extending and goes, wraps around the eyebrow, and then this comes from the cheekbone around the, that's kind of fun, isn't it? So many options. Or you could play, like, still play with the sort of glasses idea. I think there's something for me more compelling about that. Playing with that. It's kind of playing on the way light plays on the chin or under the cheekbone, but not entirely, and then extending it. But should it be more obviously another piece by having a gap? Also has kind of like a jaw feeling, like bring it further down. That's fun too. It's got, oh, and I'm wondering, seeing that, I think I kind of like that shape and position, but would it be better? We don't know yet. if it were in a different color. It's an easy way to find out, and that is to cut it out of another piece using that as a template and just test it. Because it's a pretty loosely cut piece, it doesn't have to be super precise. Do like more or less where it is, so I'm gonna not go too crazily away from it, but it doesn't have to fit perfectly, so I don't have to mimic it absolutely exactly. Now I can just see, like, is it more interesting if it changes color? Or is it more interesting if it keeps the same color? It is an interesting question that I still haven't answered. I think it feels too quiet somehow. It can be kind of like highlight too. That's kind of fun. Follow the highlight on their face. All right, let's go back to the original orange and see what we think. You know, I don't mind it connected to the other orange, but there is part of me that just wants the piece to look separate enough. Well, I think I am going to do something like that. And is it following her chin line too politely, maybe? It should do something like that. I like that, where it stops at the white, but sort of goes over her mouth a little bit. Oh, too many decisions, even though it's a simple decision, you'd think. Figuring out where. I kind of like it there. All right. And that's about a third or a quarter of the way. Whenever I've sort of decided where something is, I try and sort of get a sense. I don't always nail it exactly, but like, okay, well, here is the critical alignment. That's about a 1/16 of an inch, about a 3/8 up. So I'll just try and match that when I bring the glued piece back. So it's a little further down. Yeah, it's there. This is more or less in alignment there. Okay, so that's 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. All right, next. All right. Just trying to decide where I want to tear this image. Obviously thinking about it too much already, but it's because I'm warmed up, I guess. Keep thinking it's a skateboard, but it's like a purse that she's got in her hand. My knife is dull. Not cutting perfectly, so. Maybe it's the way it feels in this cutting mat. This cutting mat is a very old cutting mat, so I think it's lost some of its absorbency. This one's newer, so let's see if it feels better over here. It still feels kind of crappy. I wonder what I'm doing wrong. It feels sharp, so I don't know quite what to. It's really not a. It's really not a beautiful, smooth cutting feeling. Feels like it's prone to tear at any moment. Well, just have to deal with it, right? It really feels awful. And I just checked, and it's like it's a good blade, like it's a Ulfa blade, which means they're very good blades. So I'm at a loss for why it doesn't quite feel right. Yeah, it tore. It's behaving. Snap it again, just in case there's something about that place in the blade. Let's see how that feels. It's all right on that paper, but maybe not on the magazine paper. No, that feels better. You know, it might have been that I extended the entire blade at some point and was using that part of it to cut something, and it had dulled the blade higher up. Usually when you snap the blade off, you have a fresh, very fresh, sharp area. But not in this case, apparently. Oh, it's so much better now. Okay, good. So just have some raggedy cuts on this particular go at it. I was thinking like to have her limbs go over top of something like that. I think I'll take them right up to the sleeve edge. Oh, it's so much better. So if your blade is misbehaving, just try snapping it again, because that's what's done it. It's good when it's an easy fix. Let's see, so we got about 15 minutes left in the jam. Time has been flying by. I'll try a couple of different ideas with this, with our girl here and her freed limbs. What would happen if she had more than one sort of color tucked under her arms? Kind of fun. Color and or pattern. What if, for instance, one of them went that way, like that? Ooh, that's I'm already loving this idea. Of course, as soon as I say that, that'll be the kiss of death, and it won't work out. But then I was thinking that what if that happened there, but then here something like this happens? That's kind of fun. How fun if it stops at her hand there. If you have any questions about this collage, raise your hand. I'm not sure this is going to work, Cal. Something a little creepy about her hand moving. It's freaking me out a little bit. Point up to the sleeve. I was thinking I had. Sorry, it's gone silent while I was looking for some greens. All right. Just thought it would be fun to play with some of the colors that are actually in what she's wearing, tie into her top, her lipstick, her, that's not a top, it's a one piece, it looks like. A little orangier than that, but I'm not sure I'll have just the right orange. That very red orange. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but all right, try and remember to cut on an appropriate surface. This orange lipstick just looks so electric on her. Oh, I made a cut in the wrong place. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of tape on the back to undo what I just did. It's down there, but the problem is up there. And try that cut again this time. I want it to be. Oh, it's so interesting. But it's gone quiet because I'm trying to figure something out. Figure out my plan. Not that it's a very fully thought out plan or anything, but you guys probably are familiar with this kind of feeling like that you're onto something, but you're not quite sure how to how to proceed or how to do it. And that feeling that I feel like I'm onto is using these sort of flat colors that relate to what she's wearing. And I've just cut out the sort of highlight side of her face and left her lips, and then the shadow side where you can just catch a little bit of her eye and her very dramatic earring. So I don't even know whether that'll stay that way or whether I'll bring something else in, but I love the way it looks with her remaining pink lipstick and the pink on her top. And I love the pink and this green. I just don't know exactly how I'm going to use that idea yet. So I'm going to cut her silhouette just a little higher. Let's see whether maybe up to the hairline to see whether like bringing green in on that side of the arm would be interesting. And I didn't cut it properly. Kind of like this sort of idea of her having this piece of green tucked under her arm. there's something absurd about that, but that's making me smile. So Um, like, I got my construction paper. I got my colored purse. I should be all right. Anyway, I better check in to see. All right, so Amy says she's got to go, but this was fun. See you next time. So she's probably long since left. But anyway, thank you, Amy. Awesome to hear Kim is doing better. She is, absolutely. Abigail says, some thin magazine papers are too soft to cut with blade. Try scissors. Yeah, you know, that's true, because the blade will pull, whereas the scissors have something to cut against, right? They have the other blade to cut against. But as it turned out, it was that spot on the blade that was the particular problem, in my case. So Ricky says, I'm terribly out of practice, but happy to say I've completed one and I like it. Awesome. That's great, Ricky. Thank you for fostering your creative brain. Oh, you're very welcome. And we'll catch you next time. Nellie says, glad we can't speak, or we would have volunteered 100 suggestions like, oh, please don't change that. I know it's kind of hard to watch someone else collage, isn't it? It's because you see all the options that they're not seeing, and they're seeing different options. And so, yeah, but I feel your pain. It can be a bit tortuous to to watch someone else, and someone else's decisions. Yeah, that's fun. Anne says, thanks as always for your inspiration and a window into your technical expertise. Pass my best wishes on to Kim. Absolutely will do, Anne. And Nellie says, but you always end up successful beyond our expectation. Well, I don't know whether maybe yours sometimes, Nellie, but I think sometimes people are like, I wish he hadn't done that. But you know, you got to try things, right? And it's all just glue stick and paper, right? So it really, which is very liberating, I find. I just don't, when I worry about it, I take a step back and realize, you know what, it's not worth worrying about. It's about having some fun. Cherie says, I got it. Although the poor fellow is bald and barefoot. I'll post it. I love this challenge. Oh, great, Cherie. That's awesome. Hey, Stacy. Awesome. I'm glad you made it. I didn't see you earlier. So yeah, that's wonderful that you're here. And this is right up your alley, isn't it, Stacy? Quick and very few pieces. So I look forward to seeing anything you post. I know they're going to be great. Margaret says, this was fun. Feel free to have a virtual collage any holiday. Okay, duly noted. Happy to make 21. 21 collages, Margaret? Awesome. And Jane says, thanks as always. And Margaret says, 2, not 21. Yes, okay. Yeah, no, 2 is good. 2 is good. 21 is like you were on some kind of crazy drug. So I'm gonna spend just a couple more minutes. I might go past 3:30 by just a few minutes, and then I will switch the camera to sign off. But if you do have to cut out now, I understand. We had our Thanksgiving dinner yesterday, but some of you guys, I'm sure, are having it today. So, so if you are, enjoy. It's always fun to have the feast day. He's trying some hopefully interesting things going on in the face there. I thought it was a good idea to tear the hairline, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm not as keen on it as I thought I would be, but I do like the pink in there, so I'll probably stick with that. Well, that's kind of fun. I lifted up her arm and have the 2 colors, 1 color for the hand and 1 color for the arm. That's kind of fun. So then the question becomes like, do I move the arms, like fold them out of the way, or do I tuck them under or something like that? It's a way in which they can show through. I need to cut that higher if I wanted to. So many options. The other thing I could do is cut the arms out and then place them somewhere else. That might be interesting. I might do that. I can always just glue them back in place if I decide to, but it will allow me, I think, more creative options. Something that will be fun about that is I can offset the arms. I can swap different colors underneath. Like, oh, that's kind of fun just right there with the green arms. Yeah, see, I'm really glad I took them out because now I can actually see that without having to flip them aside. And then I can decide whether does a little pink need to come in. The greens aren't quite the same as the ones in the picture, but that one's pretty close, and it's kind of fun the way it to the one in the photo, so I'm enjoying that. Oh, so the next thing I want to try is cutting out, do I want to cut out another piece or two from her, what she's wearing, to put in another color. I was going to take this central piece out, the red, except it has key folds that help describe the way her body folds are, but there's this very skinny piece of white down the side of her bodysuit, and I'm thinking if I cut that piece out and replace it with the hot pink, get this little echo, I think that might be fun. So I think I'll try that, and that'll pick up on some of the pinks that are already in there. So, all right, well, I think I sort of have an idea for there, and then we'll see whether the arms find their way back in. But, so that one's in progress, but it's nice to be able to say that I actually did more than one collage today. That's pretty unusual for me, I know. So look at that. They're almost, and they have sort of a bit of a, because I was using similar materials, they have a bit of a connection, so that's fun. So I'll just swing the camera back to sign off. Hello, guys. And Abigail says, thank you, Cal. Lots of fun. Your prompts are always interesting. Yay, that's good. I'm glad you're finding them that way. And Margaret is laughing out loud about her 2 not 21. And so happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thanks for joining me for a holiday version of Collage Jam. Who knows? I may do it again. An accident may turn into a good thing. And I know that's often the case when I'm collaging. I think I've made a mistake, and then it turns out to be just the thing it needed. So please post your collages in our virtual Collage Jam group Facebook group, sorry, our virtual Collage Jam Facebook group. I'm collage head right now. So, and I look forward to seeing what you guys post, and I will post a few of these, and we will see you in 2 weeks, which is, let me just get the calendar up here so that I know what to tell you. It is the 24th, and I believe that because that is nearing Halloween, I think that is Monster Mash, I think is the prompt. So we'll see how that goes. Okay. Anyway, have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Take care, everybody. Bye.